There is a food sitting in your kitchen right now that you believe is good for you. You might have it every morning, you might give it to your children, you probably switched to it specifically because you were trying to be healthier, and it is damaging your liver through the exact same metabolic pathway as alcohol. I'm not talking about junk food, I'm not talking about processed meals or sugary snacks, I'm talking about foods that carry health halos, foods that are marketed as natural, wholesome, and nutritious, foods that sit in the healthy aisle of the supermarket and appear on the menus of juice bars and wellness cafes, foods that most people would never dream of questioning, and they are flooding your liver with fructose at doses your body was never designed to handle. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is now the most common liver condition in the Western world. It affects an estimated 1 in 3 adults. The majority of them don't drink excessively. Many of them eat what they consider a healthy diet, and the fastest growing source of liver-damaging fructose in those diets is not fizzy drinks or sweets. It's the so-called healthy alternatives they switched to. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how fructose damages the liver, which supposedly healthy foods are delivering it in dangerous quantities, and why your liver can't tell the difference between a glass of fresh orange juice and a glass of cola. By the end, you'll understand why the health food aisle might be the most dangerous place in the supermarket for your liver. Hi, I'm Dr. Alex. I'm an emergency medicine doctor, and after nearly 10 years in the AANDE, I've seen what happens when liver disease goes undetected. Patients arriving with jaundice, with internal bleeding from varices, with confusion from hepatic encephalopathy, all because fat had been building silently in their liver for years while they believed they were eating well. What struck me was that so many of these patients weren't heavy drinkers. They were health-conscious people who had unknowingly been feeding their liver the one substance it handles worst. My mission now is to help people understand what's actually happening inside their body so they can avoid the emergency department entirely. If you're watching this, you already care about your health more than most, and I want to make you a promise. I promise to keep creating the most helpful science-backed videos I can, grounded in the latest research and in what I see in clinical practice, to help you prevent the diseases that fill emergency departments every day. All I ask is that you give this channel a chance. Hit the subscribe button and the like button right now. If you get to the end of this video and you didn't learn something new, feel free to unsubscribe. No hard feelings. But if you give me your time, I'll give you everything I've learned from over a decade in medicine. So please subscribe, like, and let's get into this. To understand why certain healthy foods damage the liver, you first need to understand something that most people have never been told. Your body does not treat all sugars the same way. Glucose and fructose are both simple sugars, and they often appear together in the foods you eat, but your body metabolizes them through completely different pathways. And that difference is everything. When you eat glucose, it enters your bloodstream and gets distributed to virtually every cell in your body. Your muscles use it, your brain uses it, your heart uses it. Insulin is released to help shuttle glucose into cells, and the whole body participates in clearing it from the blood. Glucose metabolism is a shared whole-body process. Fructose is entirely different. When fructose enters your body, it goes almost exclusively to the liver. Unlike glucose, it cannot be used directly by your muscles, your brain, or most of your other organs. The liver has to process virtually all of it, and the liver processes fructose through a pathway that has no off switch. When glucose arrives at the liver, there's a regulatory enzyme called phosphofructokinase that controls the rate of metabolism. If the liver has enough energy, the enzyme slows down. It's a built-in brake. Fructose bypasses this enzyme entirely. It enters a metabolic pathway called fructolysis that has no rate-limiting step. No matter how much fructolysis arrives, the liver processes it all as fast as it can, with no mechanism to slow down or stop. And here's where the damage happens. When more fructose arrives than the liver can burn for immediate energy, which happens quickly at the doses found in modern diets, the liver converts the excess into fat through a process called de novo lipogenesis. Literally, new fat creation. That fat accumulates inside the liver cells themselves. This is the beginning of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But it gets worse. As part of fructose metabolism, a molecule called uric acid is produced as a byproduct. Elevated uric acid causes oxidative stress within the liver, damages the endothelium of blood vessels throughout the body, and impairs the production of nitric oxide, which raises blood pressure. Fructose also does not trigger the same satiety signals as glucose. It doesn't stimulate insulin in the same way, doesn't suppress the hunger hormone ghrelin, and doesn't activate the fullness hormone leptin. So you can consume enormous amounts of fructose without your brain ever registering that you've had enough. This is the metabolic reality. Your liver treats fructose almost identically to how it treats ethanol. Both are metabolized exclusively in the liver, both bypass the normal regulatory mechanisms, both generate fat through de novo lipogenesis, both produce toxic byproducts that cause oxidative stress. The only difference is that ethanol also affects the brain acutely, which is why we regulate alcohol but not fructose. But from the liver's perspective, a high fructose load is metabolically indistinguishable from a high alcohol load. This is the single biggest offender on the list, and it's the one that shocks people the most. A standard 250 milliliters glass of fresh orange juice contains roughly 20 to 25 grams of sugar, approximately half of which is fructose. That's almost identical to the sugar content of the same volume of cola. The only meaningful difference is that the juice contains some vitamins, but your liver doesn't care about the vitamins when it's being flooded with fructose. When you eat a whole orange, you consume about 12 grams of sugar packaged inside a matrix of fiber, water, and cell walls. That fiber slows absorption dramatically. The fructose trickles into the liver at a rate it can handle. But when you juice the orange, you strip away all the fiber and concentrate the sugar into a liquid that is absorbed rapidly. 3 or 4 oranges worth of fructose hits the liver in minutes with no fiber to slow it down. Research published in the BMJ has demonstrated that regular fruit juice consumption is associated with increased risk of type 2 diabetes and fatty liver disease at rates comparable to sugar-sweetened beverages. Smoothies are often perceived as a health food, and they can be, depending on what goes into them. But the typical commercial smoothie or smoothie bowl combines multiple servings of fruit juice as a base, honey or agave as a sweetener, and sometimes acai or other concentrated fruit products. The total fructose load in a single serving can easily reach 40 to 60 grams, which is more fructose than your liver would receive from an entire day of eating whole fruit. The blending process also breaks down the fruit's cellular structure, releasing the sugars from their fiber matrix and accelerating absorption. You're essentially pre-digesting the fruit, which removes the protective pacing mechanism that whole fruit provides. A smoothie bowl with banana, mango, blueberries, honey, and orange juice is a fructose bomb dressed in wellness branding. Agave syrup was marketed as a healthier alternative to sugar because it has a lower glycemic index, meaning it doesn't spike blood glucose as sharply. And that's true, but the reason it doesn't spike blood glucose is that it's 70 to 90% fructose. It bypasses glucose metabolism entirely and goes straight to the liver. Agave has a higher fructose concentration than high fructose corn syrup, which is typically 55% fructose. The low glycemic index that was used to market it as healthy is actually the signature of a product that overwhelms the liver. It's the worst possible sugar for liver health, sold as one of the best. Honey occupies a similar category. It's natural, it has trace minerals and antioxidants, and it's roughly 40% fructose. A tablespoon of honey delivers approximately 8 grams of fructose directly to the liver. That's manageable in small doses. But when people switch from table sugar to honey as a health move and use it liberally in tea, on porridge, in baking, and in sauces, the total fructose load can easily exceed what the liver can process without converting the excess to fat. What makes this particularly misleading is that honey is often recommended by wellness influencers and natural health websites as a healing food. And it does have some genuine properties, but none of those properties change the fact that honey is metabolized in the liver through the same fructolysis pathway as any other fructose source. Natural does not mean metabolically safe. Your liver doesn't read the label. It reads the chemistry. Dried fruit is another concentrated fructose source hiding behind a health halo. When water is removed from fruit, the sugar becomes concentrated by volume. A handful of dried mango or dried cranberries contains several times more fructose than the same volume of fresh fruit. And because dried fruit is dense and sweet, it's easy to eat far more than you would of the whole fruit equivalent. People add it to granola, trail mix, salads, and porridge, treating it as a healthy addition. But from the liver's perspective, a large serving of dried fruit is a concentrated fructose hit that arrives without the water and intact fiber that would normally pace its absorption. Many commercially available dried fruits are also coated in additional sugar or sweetened with fruit juice concentrate during processing, which further increases the fructose load beyond what the original fruit contained. Always check the ingredients. If the dried fruit lists added sugar or juice concentrate, you're getting a double dose of concentrated fructose in what feels like a wholesome snack. So here's the picture I need you to see, and it's the one that the health food industry does not want you to see. The modern wellness movement has inadvertently created a fructose delivery system that bypasses every safety mechanism your body has. Whole fruit in its natural form is packaged with fiber, water, and cellular structure that slows fructose absorption to a rate the liver can comfortably handle. You'd have to eat 5 or 6 oranges in one sitting to overwhelm the liver with fructose. Nobody does that. The fiber fills you up long before you reach a problematic dose. But the moment you juice the fruit, blend it into a smoothie, dry it into a snack, or replace it with agave or honey, you remove the safety mechanism and concentrate the fructose. The liver receives a dose it was never designed to process in a single sitting. De novo lipogenesis accelerates, fat accumulates in the liver cells, uric acid rises, inflammation builds, and it happens meal after meal, day after day, in people who believe they are eating well. This is the health food fructose trap. The foods that carry the strongest wellness branding, fruit juice, smoothie bowls, agave-sweetened granola, honey-drizzled porridge, dried fruit trail mix, are often delivering more liver-damaging fructose than the sugary processed food they were supposed to replace. A glass of orange juice in the morning, a smoothie for lunch, honey in your afternoon tea, and dried fruit on your evening yogurt. That's a day of clean, healthy eating by most people's standards. And it's a day of relentless fructose delivery to a liver that has no ability to say stop. This is not your fault. The marketing told you these foods were healthy. The label said natural. The packaging showed pictures of orchards and sunshine. Nobody mentioned that your liver would process them the same way it processes alcohol. Now, before anyone panics, let me be clear about what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you to stop eating fruit. Whole fruit, eaten in its natural form, is genuinely healthy. The fiber, the water, the vitamins, the polyphenols, all of those are beneficial, and the fructose in whole fruit arrives at a pace the liver can handle. The research is consistent on this point. Whole fruit consumption is associated with reduced risk of diabetes, heart disease, and liver disease. Whole fruit is not the problem. The simplest and most powerful change you can make is to eat your fruit rather than drink it. An orange instead of orange juice, a handful of berries instead of a blended smoothie, an apple instead of apple juice. This single swap preserves the fiber matrix that paces fructose delivery to the liver and activates the satiety signals that prevent overconsumption. If you enjoy smoothies, make them at home with whole vegetables as the base, add a modest portion of whole fruit, include a protein source, and never use fruit juice as the liquid. Water, or unsweetened almond or coconut milk, replaces the liquid fructose entirely. Agave syrup should be removed from your kitchen entirely. There is no health justification for a sweetener that is 70 to 90% fructose. Honey, if you enjoy it, should be used in very small quantities, a teaspoon here and there, not as a liberal replacement for sugar in every recipe and every drink. And if you're currently using honey as your primary sweetener because you believe it's healthier than sugar, understand that from your liver's perspective, the difference is negligible at the doses most people use. Dried fruit is not a snack to eat by the handful. It's a concentrated sugar source that should be used in very small portions as a flavoring agent, not as a primary food. A few pieces of dried apricot on a salad is fine. A cup of trail mix loaded with dried mango, cranberries and raisins is a fructose load your liver doesn't need. When in doubt, choose the fresh version of any fruit over the dried version and you'll dramatically reduce the fructose concentration per serving. This is the change that by volume makes the biggest difference. Fruit juice, even freshly squeezed, even organic, is concentrated fructose without the fiber. Replace it with water, sparkling water or herbal tea. If you miss the flavor, add slices of whole fruit to water for a subtle infusion. You get the taste without the fructose flood. Research published in the journal Gastroenterology has shown that reducing fructose intake alone, without any other dietary change, can measurably decrease liver fat within weeks. Cutting fruit juice is the fastest way to achieve that reduction. Your liver has extraordinary regenerative capacity when the metabolic stress is reduced. Support it with foods that promote liver health rather than burden it. Vegetables, particularly cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, support the liver's detoxification pathways. Quality protein provides the amino acids needed for liver repair. Fiber from whole grains, legumes, and vegetables feeds beneficial gut bacteria that reduce the inflammatory load on the liver through the gut-liver axis. Omega-3 fatty acids from oily fish have been shown to reduce liver fat and inflammation in multiple clinical studies. When you remove the fructose overload and replace it with these protective foods, you're giving your liver everything it needs to heal. And one essential note: if you have been diagnosed with fatty liver disease or any liver condition, or if you're taking any prescribed medication, please do not make dramatic dietary changes without consulting your doctor first. The changes I've described are meant to complement medical care, not replace it. In the emergency department, I've seen patients with advanced liver disease who barely touched alcohol. When you dig into their dietary history, a pattern often emerges. Daily fruit juice, smoothies several times a week, honey or agave in everything, dried fruit as a daily snack. They weren't eating junk food, they were eating what they were told was healthy, and their liver was paying the price for it. I've also seen patients who caught it early, who had fatty liver flagged on an incidental scan and decided to make changes. They cut the juice, they stopped the smoothie bowls. They switched to whole fruit, they reduced the concentrated sweeteners, and on follow-up imaging, their liver fat had decreased significantly. In some cases, it normalized entirely. The liver wanted to heal. It just needed the fructose burden lifted. That's the power of understanding what's actually happening metabolically. When you know that fructose is processed exclusively in the liver through a pathway with no break, when you understand that de novo lipogenesis is creating fat from sugar inside your liver cells every time you exceed the threshold, the dietary changes become obvious. You're not depriving yourself. You're protecting an organ that can't protect itself from a substance that arrives without a warning label. Here's the message I want you to take from this. The health halo that surrounds certain foods is based on marketing, not on liver physiology. Natural does not mean safe for the liver. Low glycemic index does not mean safe for the liver. Organic does not mean safe for the liver. The only thing that determines whether a food damages your liver is the dose and speed of fructose delivery, and whether fiber is present to pace that delivery. Whole fruit protects your liver. Concentrated liquid or processed fruit damages it. The distinction is that simple, and once you make that distinction in your own kitchen, you can eat abundantly, enjoy fruit, and protect the one organ that processes everything you put in your body. Your liver is extraordinary. It performs over 500 functions. It can regenerate from significant damage, but it cannot regulate fructose intake for you. That's your job. And now you know how. The healthy food damaging your liver is not what you expected. It's fruit juice. It's smoothie bowls loaded with concentrated fruit. It's agave syrup. It's liberal honey use. It's dried fruit by the handful. All marketed as wholesome. All delivering fructose at doses and speeds your liver was never designed to handle. All driving fat accumulation in the liver through the same metabolic pathway as alcohol. The fix is not deprivation. It's precision. Eat fruit whole. Drink water instead of juice. Use sweeteners sparingly. Treat dried fruit as what it is, concentrated sugar. And give your liver the whole food nutrition it needs to repair the damage that's already been done. If this video changed how you think about what's in your kitchen, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. Every subscribe and every share helps this channel reach more people who are unknowingly feeding their liver, the one thing it handles worst. And if there's a health topic you'd like me to cover next, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.